Guys, so every Wednesday I have jury duty in Riverside. It's where I used to live and where my parents live. So after jury duty, I go visit my parents and I help clean their house. My parents are in their late 60s, early 70s, and they live in this huge house. And it's not as easy for them to clean anymore. So for Christmas, I offered to really clean their house. Maybe it's me just being OCD, but I feel that a lot of things have been neglected in this house. And, you know, they've been hoarding a lot of stuff, so it's time for a garage sale. So I've been cleaning the counters, the kitchen, you know, I'm gonna start on the bathrooms and we're gonna start organizing things after the weather gets better for a garage sale. But I feel that this gives me the bonding and the time to spend with them. In my early 20s, I never wanted to be home. And after I moved out of my parents' house, I finally found my identity, my independence, and you begin to appreciate your parents even more. And I know that coming to visit and cleaning their house is the most minute thing I could do after everything that they've done for me. But I know that it helps them in some positive way. Today marks the day that both my mom and dad have finally accepted me as an adult who can pay for my own bills and afford to pay for my family's bills. I have been trying to prove to both my parents that I can support myself and my family through music and music alone for years. This is an argument that has occurred millions of times throughout my 20s and a huge influence in finding my identity in college. Maybe it's the fact that since the recent split of my parents, my mom now has to support herself with the small amount of retirement income she is given, initiating her decision in thinking it's okay for me to pay for things. Or maybe she saw all my other cousins at my age and older doing fine without their parents. We had a family reunion / wedding this past weekend. All my cousins' parents live miles away from their parents, some with kids. Whatever the reason may be, I feel a sense of freedom and pride. This is a war I have been fighting since I graduated high school, and I won. When I was 20-ish, my parents and I were arguing about changing my major from nutrition to music. My dad flipped. It was the typical argument I had with them time and time again about how music can't pay for your bills and that there are no Filipino frontmen in bands or famous Filipinos. At the height of this particular argument, I walked away while yelling, "You'll see, I'm going to be making music, selling CDs, and one day I'm going to be famous. So famous, I'm going to buy you a new house." At the time, I was really butthurt about my family moving to this unnecessary, huge home. And I'm still kind of butthurt, yeah. But when I changed my major, my dad stopped paying for my tuition, and I started to save money from summer jobs and gigs to pay for my education. 10 years later, I'm not famous, and I can't buy them a house, but I sure as hell am making a living with music by singing for famous people and paying for some of my parents' bills to help them get out of debt. I say, it's only a few steps closer to what I declared 10 years ago. Now, don't get me wrong. I am grateful that my parents have wanted to support me financially all these years, but when you know you're making more money than they are with a job they never wanted you to have or thought would ever be successful, it's kind of embarrassing and has always made me feel bad when my mom would force money into my hand or they would give me food or something that I know I didn't need. When you are a responsible adult, knowing that your parents are in debt because they financially support you and your siblings for 30 years, there's a sense of undeniable certainty that it's time. Take on the responsibilities your parents have sacrificed for you and give back. I don't know if it's because of my Asian culture or, just the way my parents were brought up, but growing up, everything that I did felt like it wasn't good enough. Getting B's in my report card was never good enough. Choosing to do music was a no. So growing up was kind of hard because I didn't grow up the way they had planned. In the Filipino community, at least from what I've seen from other families, they're very close. In the Philippines, a lot of families basically buy a piece of land and that's where they grow their family. You're living right next door to your cousin. You're living right next door to your mom and dad. And quite different from America. So I grew up American with my parents trying to grow their children with a Filipino culture. And it's not easy to do. So as you may know from my other videos, that growing up and wanting to be a musician, not wanting to go the route of having money as a career, that's not easy to hold on to or to gauge, I guess, as a parent. And we had our share of fights and arguments on how I wanted to live my life. So that caused reasons for me to leave, reasons for me to not want to live here anymore. They'd really stress on what career choices I should make. Like, why don't you be a nurse? A nurse, you make a lot of money, your auntie is a nurse. Or, your grandma, your Lola was a teacher. You could be a teacher. Or, be a doctor or a lawyer. They make a lot of money. So I did not want to be any of those. So I'm making this video at my parents' house. They're not here. They probably will never see this video, and if they do, then they'll realize how I really feel about growing up. But I make these videos because I feel like I never had the opportunity to share my feelings. And again, in the Filipino culture, maybe that's not something that I grew up being used to. We held a lot of feelings and a lot of communication within my family to ourselves. My outlet is to make these videos, to make music, and show my emotion that way. At age 21, I had a curfew to be home by 11 o'clock. And that's not just a Filipino thing, because I know I have an Indian friend who had that deal with their parents too. So it's maybe a Asian culture thing, but I grew up in a really, I feel, strict parenting home. What they would say was, you're living under our roof, so you need to abide by our rules. And the confusing part was, I want to be independent and I want to become who I'm supposed to be. So I would rebel against their rules and I would say, I'm going to move out of here. I'm going to get out of here. And they would say, well, how are you going to do that? You need money. And what they didn't know was that I had been saving money since high school to move out and get my own place. And Finally, after college, I graduated with a degree that I didn't really plan on graduating with. I went to a school that they wanted me to go to, and I lived my life for them. The day I graduated was the day of freedom. Was a day that I decided that I could finally do what I wanted to do. It was the day that I could finally live my dream and be a musician, be a singer, and share with the world what I have been going through. After I graduated, I worked my ass off. I did as many shows as I could with balancing a part-time job and later growing into a full-time job. And then, when I had enough money and enough savings to move out, I finally did. And when I moved out, it felt very liberal. It felt so free, to finally be able to pay for things on my own as an adult, to know that I'm financially okay paying for these bills and doing it on my own, and not having anyone holding my hand telling me, you can't do this, you need someone to support you. And being able to do that for 3 years now, and proving to them and proving to myself that I could do this through my passion, it feels so free. So you're asking, why are you still here? Why are you cleaning your parents' house after you grew up like that? Well, I still love my parents very much. And I know that being an immigrant and coming to America for the life of being free and living a better life, and the dream of having your family here and having the opportunities that no other country has, is a big, huge, scary step for anyone to take. To come to a new country where the lifestyle is completely different, and to grow your family in a culture that you're not used to is not the easiest thing in the world. And I really appreciate that my parents did that for me, and that they worked really hard. They weren't always here because they were working really hard for us, for my sister and for my brother, to live a great life. And all they wanted was for us to be happy by being successful in life. And that is why they were so strict. And that is why I'm here cleaning my parents' house, because I still appreciate what they did for me. And I appreciate the love that they gave me, even though they didn't show it to us emotionally. They showed it to us through the only way that they knew how, by buying us things or making sure we had everything we wanted. And even though those were materialistic things, that was the only way they knew how. So thank you, Mom and Dad, for the love and support that you did for us.